Hello, everyone. Today I'm planning to fly from Fernandina to Lake City later this evening. And so I want to show you a top-down approach I use to make a decision of either fly or not and do it VFR or IFR. I start off with just looking at what the forecast weather is supposed to be at my departure and destination airport. It's going to be from Fernandina and arriving in Lake City, Florida. And Weather Underground is really a nice app, both on a PC as well as on an Android phone or an iPhone or an iPad. So it gives you a few things. Just when you open up the page at a particular location, it gives you a good idea of what's going on. The thing I like is it gives you a nice 10-day out view. And this is based on the American model, the GFS model mainly. A couple days ago, there was supposed to be no rain at all today, but it looks like it's actually increased, and maybe at a time of departure, there might be some rain, but it's forecast for some thunderstorms. It gives you also winds and amount of precipitation, so it's pretty useful. For my destination, Lake City, again, 10-day forecast, and if we drill down to the hourly, you'll see what I mean by being pretty nice. Destination, some rain at time, 30-40%, thunderstorms, and if I click on any of these days, it comes up with an hourly forecast, and it's pretty nice. So somewhere about 7 o'clock, there might be isolated thunderstorms, and then they pick up again at 9. Anticipate landing around 9 o'clock. So let's drill down a little bit further and see how likely that might be. An app I really like to use is windy.com. I don't know if any of you have ever used it. It is really amazing. It's a graphical view of all the weather throughout the world, actually. As you can see, I move around and it still gives you winds. This is the first page it comes up with is winds at the surface. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. And if you move this pointer around, it'll give you the wind's direction and strength at different locations. So now I'm concerned about thunderstorms, and at the present time, there are none in my route from Fernandina to Lake City. So let's move a slider out to 4 p.m., and it looks pretty nasty here. And that's with the European model. That's ECMWF, European, whatever the letters mean. American model is GFS. We'll look at that shortly. But so mid-afternoon, about 4 o'clock, it doesn't look very good. So let's see an hour before my planned departure, which is my planned departure is around 8:30. So at 1900 local time, it doesn't look very good at the destination with the European model, and move up to 2200, all goes away. Usually all these storms dissipate by about 9 o'clock or so. We'll see what the American model is showing, and we'll see 1800, most of the rain is localized on the shore, and 8 p.m. still stays the same, and 9 p.m. it's actually gotten worse along the route, according to Windy's European and American models. If we look at a short-term model, which is the NAM model, we'll see that it only goes out 48 hours, The European and American models go out 10 days. Weather Underground bases its forecast on the American model, not the European model. Once we get in hurricane season, the European model is a little bit more accurate in determining where the hurricanes are, what the hurricane tracks are going to be. So it's useful during hurricane season. So let's go back to the NAM model, short-term model. And so at 1900, again, it shows things mainly localized around the shore. And if we look at departure time, 8, it's cleared up a little bit, but there's stuff along the way. That's not bad. There's destination and departure look all right. And at 2100, about the same. At 2200, doesn't change that much. The nice thing about Windy is that it has a huge amount of information. You can see what estimated rain accumulation is going to be over a certain period of time, the next 12 to 24, 48 hours for the particular point, and it's pretty nice. So anyway, let's look at clouds, which is something that interests all of us. And this is all clouds with the NAM model. Low clouds are bases up to 7,000 feet. And there might be some clouds here along the way, according to the NAM model. The European model doesn't have too many. The American model has them again. But it looks like the route should be all right. Gives you cloud tops. Now, for tops and bases, the European model is the only one that provides those. For bases, everything should be VFR according to it. The nice thing, it also gives you a CAPE index, which is the amount of energy in the atmosphere that's able to generate thunderstorms. I don't recall what CAPE stands for, but I'm sure you all can look that up. In the red doesn't look very good at 8 p.m. So you got to start putting all these things together and see which is the most likely to occur. So it doesn't look very good as far as thunderstorms at the time I'm planning to leave. When at 10 p.m. it looks much better. At 1800, so at the time I'm leaving at 8 p.m. it's almost the worst. We'll see if that's true or not. So to look at current conditions graphically with radar and TFRs and other things, SkyVector is a pretty useful app. Of course, we all have, or most of us have, either a Garmin Pilot or ForeFlight or some other moving map flying application, which depicts all these things for us on our tablets or our phones, so we can look at that as well. But this is a useful app on the desktop. The first thing it comes up with is jet fuel prices. I don't know why, but for most of us, we'd be looking at 100 low lead. I'm going to get rid of that and just show weather, text weather, and TFRs, and SIGMETs, as well as radar, current radar. So this is a SIGMET. Right now there's nothing on there, so I could leave now, no problem, but I'm going to be leaving in about 8 hours or so, 8-9 hours. So you highlight any of these stations and it gives you METARs and TAFs if they have any, like JAX does. So JAX is currently forecasting at time of departure, which is, or say from 1800 Zulu, it's saying that there's vicinity of thunderstorms broken 4,000 feet. I usually fly 4,000 to 6,000 feet. Higher the better. It gives me more at night. Gives me more safety in case I have an engine problem. So, according to Jax, I'd be in the clouds at 6,000 feet. And vicinity thunderstorms at 00Z, which is 8 p.m. time of departure, scatter 4,000, broken 25, and vicinity of showers. And this was put out 20 minutes ago. Let's look at what I really end up using for the day of departure and give me an idea what's going on. The best I found was graphical forecast for aviation, aviationweather.gov. Go to their tools, pick GFA, and you come up with this. Starts off with current observations, and that I get anywhere. So let's look at forecasts, and these are all graphical for us pilots. Here's that same segment that was depicted on SkyVector. We got forecasts for each area. You tap on it, click on it, and you'll see the same information here as was in SkyVector, of course. They're all updated simultaneously. And the nice thing about this is that it shows you, say, at a time of departure, 00Z, what the forecast is for that particular time. If I had it at 22Z, it shows the thunderstorms in vicinity with this little symbol. Otherwise, at 00Z, showers in vicinity, and 25,000 broken. Earlier, forecasts were worse. And let's see, I'm going to go to ceilings and visibility. It also shows thunderstorms. So this is isolated scattered thunderstorms. If I were just to look at this, I don't know if I'd like to fly. Maybe yes, maybe not. It all depends what they look like at time of departure. To get a better idea what it looks like on my route, I'm going to put my route in. And we can see, looks like there would be thunderstorms all along the way. 1 hour later, 9 p.m., I'd like to land there by 9. Takes a couple minutes or a little bit time to update, but it's similar. So I have to look out. With precipitation and weather, here we have chance of rain, but still the same thunderstorms. None at my destination airport, but there's definitely some, again, at departure and along the way. If I look at departure time, it's closer to my destination, so my whole route would be covered with isolated scattered thunderstorms. And if I look just straight for thunderstorms, the icon would be scattered thunderstorms here throughout half my route. At time of departure, I can move the slider back and forth for forecast. And at arrival time, I'd still have the same issue along the route. So I'd be a little bit concerned about flying if this were true. What really has helped me in making a go, no-go, IFR, or which route to go is actually the cloud forecast. So let's just move the slider over here for now and put clouds up. And for our current time, we see that there's not many clouds. It's all clear, sky clear, scatter 4,000. That matches all the VFR that we see in this area on SkyVector or any other place. So let's move a slider up to 4 p.m. where the rain was supposed to be pretty bad. And we see that there's still not much going on in terms of clouds. 1 hour before departure time, we start seeing a little bit of stuff right in the middle. But it's still cirrus, and there's few 4,000. There's not that much. And sorry, I wanted to just move down here a little bit. So this is the symbology and the legend. So overcast for darker colors. At time of departure, there is some stuff around Jacksonville area. North of Fernandina looks better. And if I were to fly, I may have to deviate a little bit north and then go around. Let's see if a little bit later what it looks like. And it's overcast at 4,000, tops at 42,000. So there's an area here where there might be some significant thunderstorms at 0100Z. This does change with time, so I'm going to look at this about 4 hours prior, 3 to 4 hours prior to my departure, and help me make a better decision here. But with clouds topping at 10,000 feet, likelihood of a thunderstorm is not great, but once you get above 10,000, it's not very, you would have a thunderstorm. Now, it's interesting that the thunderstorm forecast for that same time is none here. So we have to put everything together and see where there's conflicts. And I found that the cloud forecast is usually the best. And earlier on, about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours when I looked at it, there was nothing here, and it looks like it's changed. So we'll have to watch this carefully. Finally, for a long flight, I use a longer flight. I use 1-800-WX-BRIEF, and I'll show you its features in just a second. So this is 1-800-WXBRIEF.com. It's basically it's Lidos's website, and this is who you were always calling. We were always calling in the past for weather briefings. We can still call them, and this website gives you that information succinctly and much easier to understand. Area we want to go to is for flight plan and briefings. Go to here, and once you register, you have a login. You put in your aircraft, your name, and your Lidos ID. And when you file flight plans through either your Garmin Pilot app or ForeFlight, you end up doing it through Lidos. You have that option at least. So you can save several favorite flight plans, and I've gone quite a few areas. I've even gone to Eastport, Maine. But let's take a shorter flight to Pensacola, and it puts in all the info that you save for that particular flight. Let's say I would plan to go at 10,000 feet, and tell it when I'm leaving. Say I'm leaving at this is local time, so I'm leaving at 1600 local. And for now, I'm going to make route of flight direct. There's some airspace involved, but I'm just going to leave it as B. Time on hour 2, fuel on board 5 hours, 1 on board, etc., etc. So get a standard brief, and I'll show you the page that comes up. Quite useful. This is the page that comes up in your standard brief. If there's any TFRs, it'll show you along your route. Any convective sigmets. And here's a textual side and the graphical side. So you move along, there's 5 convective sigmets, there's outlooks, there's actual sigmets, and depicts each one as you go along. These are outlooks. So you can scroll through all of them. For air mets, in case you had IFR, turbulence, or whatever, there's none, as it says, for this briefing. Surface analysis, you can look at all your fronts and lows and highs and make your own decisions that way. Current weather, all these are METARs and shows you as well the radar. And if you're flying along the route, it tells you what the METARs are as you read them here. You'd have to actually read them. You can't just click on them. It won't tell you anything about it, just like other websites do. But it's got destination and departure ones. Forecast. This is starting to become quite useful. So you look at the southeast 2100Z, 20 at 00Z. This sort of matches what we saw on the aviation and the graphical forecast for aviation. So if we kind of go north, we'd be fine. But for our Pensacola flight, everything looks pretty good until you get to Pensacola itself. Same kind of graph for visibility, precipitation, and surface winds. And let's look at 00Z. And again, most of the thunderstorms, according to these rain forecasts and precipitation, are focused in the northeast corner of Florida. Terminal forecast. Now, this is really nice because it gives you a forecast along the route at the time that you're crossing those particular points. So that's very useful. It interprets each one and tells you what it's going to be when you're crossing that point. Quite useful. Winds aloft. For the time file, you read them along with here, whatever. And this is about the only place you can actually get an area forecast. Nowhere else have I seen an area forecast. So this is area forecast that it is showing here. Useful. NOTAMs. Long trip. You may want to avoid certain areas or get an idea what the runways or comms or navs are along the way. So it's got departure, destination, and en route. For en route, pick whichever you like. More importantly for me was airspace and special use airspace. So for that, you can zoom in, and at the time that you're flying, it'll depict these particular airspace that you got to worry about. So GNV 12-119 is unmanned aircraft system within an area defined as 2 nautical miles radius of Crestview VOR and up to 1,200 feet. So that should not really affect me too much, and approach is going to steer me around this area anyway. For special use airspace, they have some, but it's away from my route. And runway or taxiway, apron, NOTAMs for airports along the route in case you thought you might want to land somewhere for fuel or alternates. Gives them all for you. So organizes them very nicely for you. Going back to WX Brief. Two interesting areas or features it has is optimizing your altitude for your route in terms of fuel and time en route. The only thing about it is it does not have an ability to change your airspeed, your true airspeed according to altitude per your performance charts. You can't put that in. We can do that in Garmin Pilot as well as ForeFlight, but not in this particular app. So it's lagging there. But it gives you an idea. If you were to be at 170 knots all throughout these altitudes, then you'd be faster the lower you are. But at 6,000 feet, at 65% power, there's no way I'm going to do 170 knots or keep that same airspeed. So we're just going to leave that alone. However, the better feature it has is evaluating departure time, because it takes into consideration what the weather is at the departure, destination, and along the route. So you originally said we're leaving at 1600 EDT, and it could be marginal VFR at arrival. However, things look better later on, and although it doesn't, I guess the forecast doesn't go as far out for Pensacola, so it doesn't know what it is, but along the route it's going to be much better. So if you had option to change your times or look at your departure window, you could pick 1900 or 1800 Z, 1800 local, and it will change it for you on your flight plan form. Well, I hope this has been useful for all, and I'll give you an update of what it looks like before I leave. Have a good one. Well, I'm ready to leave. Engine's running. I'm on the ground, ready to taxi. It's 2025. I had forecast leaving around 2000. That's 00 Zulu. It's a little bit later than that. No problem. Gave weather a little chance to dissipate. And as you can see, there is nothing between Fernandina and Lake City at this time. It's all VFR. And I still filed IFR 6,000 feet. Taylor down here. There's a outlook, convective outlook south of me and north of me, wide open in the middle. Sigmet on the north side, and slight sprinkles over me right now before I taxi. So, as we can recall, the thunderstorm forecast and precipitation forecast ended around here, halfway to 2/3 of a way between Fernandina and Lake City. However, the clouds were basically cirrus, very few cumulonimbus, except for this area here where there was forecast to be tops of 42,000. Don't see any precipitation there right now, and we'll see what it looks like when I get closer. This is a track I actually flew. I stopped short of Taylor about halfway there, since it was totally clear between this point and Lake City, and it saved a few minutes that way. But as you can see, the weather, bad weather, was just north and east of me and a little bit south. So no issues on this flight. The graphical forecast for aviation, specifically the clouds, were quite helpful.
traffic, 24 hour 5 Charlie Papa, starting final 36 Cannon Creek, full stop. Second billboard, coming right in. Mixture's coming full rich. Here.